Part 1 of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's DLC, The Teal Mask, released on the 13th of this month, and I was primed and ready to stream it for days over on Twitch. Go check out the streams to see this kind of stuff live. I had taken off of work so I could play it for 4 days straight. So I went ahead and got started, and I beat it in one sitting. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's rewind to the start of the day, and I'll tell you all about my first experience in the land of Kitakami. We booted up the game on release day, ready to explore the new land. But not before we had to update the game, cause apparently I had not thought to do that ahead of time. After an excruciating 30 minutes of waiting, it was into the game where our homeroom teacher, Jacques, gave us a call letting us know that we were selected to go on a school field trip to a place called Kitakami. It was supposedly a random selection, but let's be real. It's cause I saved the world, isn't it? Come on, you can tell me. It'll be our little secret. Now, I had seen some things prior to the DLC's launch about what levels to expect the Pokemon we'd be facing to be, and the team that had gotten me through all of the trials Paldea had to offer was a bit higher than that. So I opted for swapping to a Quaxley we had in the box named Elvis to start off our new team. We bulked him up to level 10 before heading to the academy, whereupon we found a new face stood at the entrance. This mystery lady turned out to be Miss Briar, a representative from Blueberry Academy, a school based out of Unova? Let this be a hint at Pokemon Legends, Kyurem, please, I beg of you. Regardless of whether or not Nintendo will answer my prayers, Miss Briar was to be our chaperone on this school trip. The rest of our trip mates finally arrived, and we were off to the far-off land to the east, which we apparently took a plane and a bus to get to. Not like we have Corviknight to fly us anywhere we need or anything. That is, unless Kitakami has Tinkaton at the ready to shoot down any passing armored birds. I suppose that would justify the traversal methods. Nope, no Tinkaton. Just one of our schoolmates getting motion sickness from the trip. We were sent to the nearby town in which we'd be staying to get some help for our ill classmate, and oh my god, there are so many new Pokemon. Well, not new to the national decks, but new to this game. They've got Poochyena, Yanma, Sawaddle, all kinds of great mons. And what do they all have in common? Their levels are all in the 50s? But I thought, no. This isn't right. This must be intended as a later area or something, right? We made our way to the town only to be stopped by 2 kids having a bad hair day by the looks of it. Their names were Kieran and Carmine, and they were apparently siblings. And now I'm starting to think this is not a bad hair day, but rather just a means to seek discourse among Pokemon fans. What do you think of these two? Let me know in the comments below. I'll start. Carmine sucks. And what makes her even worse is that she confirmed my worries to be fact, sending in a level 60 Poochyena as her lead mon. Thankfully, I had forgotten to take Mega Man off the team, so he made sure to clean up for us, winning us our very first battle. What a warm welcome. I definitely want to stay here after that one. Following our match, one of the caretakers of the town of Masui approached us. We told him about the sick kid back at the bus stop, and not long after, the whole gang was in town, and we headed into the community center where we'd be rooming on the trip. We changed up our outfit, and it was off to bed for the night. In the morning, after receiving the most important item of the DLC, a selfie stick, we were told of our task to pair up with one of the other students to venture around Kitakami to find 3 signboards that would tell us of some of the deep lore of the region. So, per the forcefulness of Carmine, we were paired up with Kieran after sweeping through his lackluster team with Mega Man once again. But that was Mega Man's final battle, since I really wanted to use an entirely new team for the DLC. So I took all of my EXP candies from my bag and shoved them directly down Elvis's gullet so he could be our main mon for the journey ahead. Speaking of the journey ahead, it was time to go meet Kieran at the first signboard up at Loyalty Plaza. Except no, it wasn't, cause our good friend from our initial playthrough of the game, whom I like to refer to as my Don't Progress Demon, or DPD for short, was back to veer this experience off the rails just the same as he had done all that time ago. So no, we didn't go to the signboard. We instead started filling out the Kitakami Pokédex, which already had 101 entries submitted, so it was time to get all of the new guys. Nothing too exceptional in the area surrounding the town, but it wasn't long before we came across Perrin, a photographer with a Hisuian Growlithe, so I'm already a fan. She took our picture, but didn't really have much else to say to us, at least not until we finished her quest of filling out 150 entries in the Pokédex. And thank God we already had over 100. That should make this a walk in the park. During this interaction, one of our viewers kept going on and on about Freddy Fazbear and how he was coming soon, which would make sense with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie coming out in October, but they were not talking about that. No, they were going on about one of the leaked Pokemon from the Teal Mask, and thankfully, I was blissfully unaware of what this new Pokemon was. It supposedly was part of Perrin's little side quest thing, so we made sure to fill in those dex entries ASAP. But not before we ran into the most obnoxious duo to ever grace these games. Oh, the positive energy is positively flowing. I'd just love to buy up all this Kitakami air. Oh, my dearest Onair, even while out in the boonies, your idea is still purely metropolitan. Oh, so my dearest Onair. However, shall we waste our time and our money today? They're fucking rich. Billy, look, a commoner. They're staring at us. A commoner? It's me, hello. A commoner? Seriously? These two are probably the worst people I have ever met. I guess they have quite a bit to their little side quest thing too, but I didn't know or bother when I played, so that will just have to remain a mystery to us, I suppose. After a little while longer, catching an applin named Candy in the orchard nearby, we made our way up to the first signboard, whereupon Kieran met up with us. The sign was written about an ogre who lived in the central mountain of the land, part of the super in-depth lore of Kitakami, and Kieran seemed very into it. In fact, he's apparently a huge fan of the ogre. I mean, I certainly can't blame him, but we'll get back to that later. We took a quick shot of us in front of the sign, presumably using the selfie stick we had gotten, but nothing about this shot screams the use of a selfie stick, unless I just kinda hucked it forward to get a wide shot, but I'll do my best not to dwell on logistics here. Before long, it was off to the next sign at Kitakami Hall, a near straight shot east of here. Was it a straight shot though? That's right, it most definitely was not. It was time to fill in more of the decks, catching things like Vulpix, Swinub, and Seedot, who evolved into Nuzleaf fairly quickly. Why the hell does Nuzleaf have nipples? Man's already got a sack for hips, but now he has nipples too? Along we went, catching more and more Mons to fill out the decks so we could get a glimpse at Mr. Fazbear, coming across one of the new Kitakami Pokemon, Poltergeist. But it was one of those random Terra-type ones that glow brighter than the damn sun, so I didn't bother catching it. I wanted one with a regular grass or ghost Terra type, so I was just gonna wait till I found a wild one. Then, finally, we arrived at the second signboard with Kieran following closely behind. This one told us more of the ogre's tale, telling us of its many masks that it once possessed before they all got taken by the three heroes of Kitakami known as the Loyal Three. I'm honestly starting to feel a bit bad for this ogre, I'm not gonna lie. Those three kinda just seem like a bunch of bullies. Well, either way, we took our disembodied selfie, and Kieran had the bright idea to go to the ogre's abode, known as the Dreaded Den. Kinda spooky. Oh, and it's located right past the Infernal Pass? How lovely. Did we still go? Obviously. Up Oni Mountain we trekked, finding so many new friends like Clefairy, who I definitely thought was already in the game prior to the DLC, but alas. More Pokemon were to come, including Chingling, Coughing, and every PokeTuber's favorite and only joke, but eventually we made it to the Crystal Pool at the mountain's peak, which was not where we had intended on going, as it typically goes. Thankfully, there ended up being a hole nearby that we dropped down that led to another hole that we dropped down that led to another... You know what? You get the point. That last hole put us in a position from which we climbed directly up the nearby cliff face to find a grassy patch across a narrow, natural bridge. I found this intriguing, being the only color to be seen on the mountain, and wouldn't you know it, it's where we were supposed to be going. Kieran met us there in front of the ogre's den, but there was no ogre to be seen. Kieran had the wonderful idea to battle to draw the ogre's attention to get it to reveal itself, so we crushed him easily, noticing halfway through that our beloved Applin Candy was Bug Terra, a fairly unfortunate fact, but we fixed it later. The battle didn't seem to draw out the ogre as intended though. Except, it did. It was just hiding behind a rock nearby before it kinda just glide-stepped away, for lack of better explanation. After entering the dreaded den while it was still light out and re-emerging seconds later to the sun having half set already, Kieran quickly talked to us about how he would love to go to the Festival of Masks with us, since he seems to have just the tiniest little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny crush on Isigil here. We accepted as friends. You hear that, Kieran? Friends. Friends. And we headed back to town to meet up with Kieran at his house. Upon our arrival, we spoke to his grandfather, who asked if I was Kieran's new friend, which I truthfully said yes to, at which point I realized that I can't even be friends with this kid without getting him way too giddy. Why are you smiling, Isigil? Are you not as creeped out as I am? I guess not. Well, either way, Kieran's grandmother then came through, decking us out in a new Jinbei attire. And look at us. We are adorable with our hair up and the green Jinbei on. Thanks, Kieran's grandma. You're the best. Oh, hey, Carmine. She's your grandma too? God damn it. It's fine. Let's just go get the masks you guys have in the shed. Oh, of course you don't have enough for me to get one. And of course, Carmine refused to let Kieran give me his. It was around this time that I realized just how much I disliked Carmine, and to make matters worse, she wanted to fight me once again. But aside from her focus-sashed Morpeko, she was a breeze, and it was off to the festival. But not before we headed back to the Apple Hills to get a new, non-Bugterra Applin to replace Candy. And also not before we went ahead and dicked around for a bit to satiate our DPD, finding Jacques in the fields directly east of Masui, who had set up a nice little picnic for us. What's this? An egg? How'd that get there? I'll tell you how. Jacques planted it there. How could he do such a thing? Really, truly, that's so deceitful of you, my homeroom teacher. I thought I could trust you. I bet it's just some garbage Pokemon anyway. It's a Piplup. What the fuck? I rescind my previous statement. Eventually, we found our way to the festival, meeting up with our two new friends, albeit creepy and rude friends, but I suppose I'll take them over unnamed default NPC students from Paldea. Whatever the case, I headed over to a nearby stand to buy myself a candy apple, which was followed by me walking over to Kieran, who also bought me a candy apple. Well, this is awkward. He ran off and we hiked up the nearby stairs and searched for him, finding him stood next to a large stand in the main plaza area of Kitakami Hall. We talked to the lady at the front desk and Carmine showed up to do her usual thing, aka being a douche, and told us that this was the stand for a minigame called Ogre Ousting. That part wasn't douchey, but rather the part of her bragging about her score and how we'd clearly never beat it was a bit on the rude side. Needless to say, we demolished her record in no time, which made quick work of her clearly fragile ego, sending her into a fuming rage. But never mind her, cause off to the side, real news was happening, as Ogerpon stood at the cusp of the mountain path. Somehow, neither I nor Carmine realized it was Ogerpon upon initial inspection, but only after it ran up the stairs and its mask came off, revealing its cute orange face and fanged expression, did we finally realize. Except Carmine remained clueless. I don't know how you can be so incredibly oblivious and yet still have such an intense ego, but maybe it makes more sense than I realize. Ogerpon ran off, so we took its mask for safekeeping, just in case we were to cross paths again. Not long after our run-in with the ogre, Kieran came by to check in on us, and I was so ready to tell him about Ogerpon, but Carmine had other plans, refusing to tell Kieran of the interaction. I'm sure that was the best idea, not one that's gonna come and bite us in the ass later. We headed back to the community center to rest for the night, waking up the next morning with Carmine outside, waiting for us to come with her to their house to speak with their grandfather about the mask. But joke's on her, cause I was hungry, so it was time to order some pizza. It took us way too long to order, but soon enough we were back at it, going straight to see Carmine and her old fart grandpa, who, after being given Ogerpon's mask, told us the real tale of Kitakami, Ogerpon, and the Loyal Three. Yeah, a long time ago, a man and an ogre came to Kitakami from a foreign land. People of the village feared the man and the ogre, who looked so different from them, and so they refused to let the travelers come anywhere near the village. The man and the ogre were saddened that the villagers did not welcome them, but they were happy just to have each other. They settled quietly in a cave on the mountain. There was only one villager who pitied the two travelers, the village taskmaster. Taskmaster or mask maker? I don't know what it actually said. He made several masks for the man and the ogre. The masks were brilliant work, adorned with gems the man brought from somewhere far away. By wearing these masks, the travelers could hide their true faces and mingle with the villagers. The man and the ogre were overjoyed. They thanked the mask maker for his kindness. Wearing the masks, the man and the ogre started secretly joining the village festival. The mysterious pair soon became the talk of the village because of their brilliant masks. In fact, rumors about them quickly spread far and wide, even to distant lands. But rumors of exquisite shining masks attract more than just innocent curiosity. A group of greedy Pokemon soon made their way to the land of Kitakami. These Pokemon sneaked into the cave in which the man and the ogre lived, and tried to make off with the masks, which were carefully stored away. The man happened to be there. He managed to hold on to one of the masks, but he was not strong enough to protect them all. The Pokemon stole the other 3 masks. Several hours later, when the ogre returned to the cave, it found its beloved home in ruin. All that was left were the signs of struggle and a teal mask. The ogre donned that mask and went down to the village, perhaps to search for its friend. It found the greedy Pokemon there, gloating over their stolen masks, and defeated them. The villagers, of course, had no idea what was happening nor why. All they saw was the raging ogre, and they felt great fear. The villagers thought the 3 Pokemon had fallen trying to protect the village from the ogre. To honor their sacrifice, the villagers named them the Loyal Three and interred them with care. Wounded and weak, the ogre returned to its cave alone and with great sadness. That's a lot to take in. And what a sad story, too. Thank God Kieran isn't around to hear all of this. That would just complicate everything even further. Ah, fuck. We gave Grandpa the mask to fix up and met up with Kieran at the shop nearby, where he told us that it was time to venture to the 3rd and final signboard, which ended up being across the map from where we were. So it was officially time to get around to filling out the decks, so we could go talk to Parent again. And let me tell you, there are some exceptional Pokemon that were added in the DLC. I'm mostly referring to those Mons making a return, the likes of Mienfoo, Vikavolt, Munchlax, and so many more. We caught a lot in the next hour, as well as evolving a few of the ones that had already been on the team, and in no time, we had filled in just over 150 Dex entries, allowing us to return to Perrin whenever we pleased. It wasn't for a while though, cause it was pizza time, baby! Papa John serving up that spicy garlic stuffed croissant, dude! Limited time only, get yours today! Please sponsor me, I'm desperate. After returning to the game, we immediately went up to the last signboard where Kieran insisted on our 4th battle or something at this point. I'm unsure. What I am sure about though, is the fact that this fight was not as creamy smooth as the previous ones. A couple max revives were all it took to finish off his team after almost losing everybody on mine, but we made it through and that's all that matters. So, to finish out our mission, we took one last selfie in front of the sign in which neither of us appeared to be having any semblance of a good time, and we had finished what we had set out to do. That was it. End of DLC. Roll credits. Okay, obviously that wasn't it, so after catching and evolving a few more friends, we headed back to town so we could talk to our friendly neighborhood photographer. Now that we had collected over 150 of Kitakami's Pokemon, Perrin was more than happy to talk to us about what she had set out to do, but only after we defeated her in battle, which was a breeze. Finally, after all this time, she was going to tell us what she was here for. To hold your own against the Blood Moon Beast? The Blood Moon Beast? Yeah, there's a certain Ursaluna I've been searching for. Oh, I see. It's known as the Blood Moon Beast. So that's, wait, is that what Pumpkinhead meant? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I technically just spoiled it a little bit for myself. A new form of Ursaluna? This is huge. I was beyond ready to get some gorgeous shots of this beast, so to the Timeless Woods we went to hunt down the creature. And wouldn't you know it, we found a shiny Shinx along the way. Certainly was not expecting to get any sort of shiny today, but we take those. We arrived in the forest, catching a few returning Pokemon before finding Perrin in the middle of a photo shoot with a Poliwhirl. I chose not to interrupt, and without context, the things she was saying were a little, should we say, out there. We talked through the plan, which was to survey the Pokemon in the area, place their data in a little scanner thing in order to prevent the scanner from picking up signs of those Pokemon, therefore leaving the only Pokemon that would be scanned to be our target Ursaluna. Simple enough. So we took a rest in Perrin's tent, awoke at dusk, and began our survey work. And when I say survey work, I mean Pokemon Snap Simulator. It was a fun little romp though, and I think the mainline games would honestly do well to incorporate more of those sorts of things into their gameplay opportunities. This is a cry for help, Nintendo. Do not let us down. Regardless, we finished up our fieldwork fairly quickly and returned to camp, giving Perrin our newfound data to input in the scanner. It seemed to work pretty well, seeing as a clear signal came from deep in the woods, so we approached very slowly. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Holy shit! Oh my god, I get it now. It really is Freddy Fazbear. The battle was actually quite tough, likely due to our underleveled hodgepodge of a team, but we did somehow manage to pull it off through the use of many max revives. But this thing is absolutely cracked. Its new signature move, Blood Moon, is just the normal type special counterpart to Gigaton Hammer, but on a Pokemon with a really good base special attack stat. So let me reiterate. Cracked. I caught it in my only beast ball as it seemed like the only ball fit for such a monstrosity, and of course, I named it Freddy. Afterwards, we packed up and headed back to camp, and it was all taken care of. The Blood Moon beast had been captured and sent into servitude of a young girl, as everyone would expect from a Pokemon with such an intimidating name and background. No one would even bat an eye. We headed back to Masui after that, meeting up with Perrin again. She told us she had taken some pictures of the bout with the beast, but was unwilling to share them because Game Freak didn't want to program that in, and she finished off by giving us a Hisuian Growlithe as a farewell gift, sure that hers and mine would one day cross paths once again. Setting up the fact that she is going to be in part 2 of the DLC when it comes out in winter of 2023, which is not specific enough for me. I need a date right now so I can stream it and make it into a video as soon as it comes out. Which reminds me, if you haven't already checked me out on the purple platform, you should. And if you haven't subscribed on the red platform, you should. We're trying to reach 100 subs by the end of 2023, so let's go! It means a lot. Now that we had taken care of what is probably the coolest side quest these games have to offer, it was time to get back to the plain Jane, mundane, T-Pain, David Blaine content that was the main story of the DLC. Our first order of business was finally giving Candy the opportunity to evolve. Only problem is that I had no idea where the item I needed was. So, like any good gamer would, I googled it. I didn't have time to go on a wild goose chase, I had to actually play the game. It wasn't long before I got the syrupy apple from a small orchard to the east, and Candy was able to evolve into the newly introduced Dipplin. It looks sticky, like I'd pull a tooth out if I even tried to take a bite. We headed back to the community center and hit the hay. In the morning, Student 3 told us Carmine was waiting for us at her house, so we left taking a nice close peek at the Chingling cake on the way out. Can't say I noticed this at any point up until now, but it's adorable nonetheless. We met up with Carmine and her grandpa at their house where they wanted to talk about the mask and how Gramps needed a certain material to fix it up. That was when Kieran came out of the house, almost immediately leaving without a care, basically ignoring us. All three of us were confused as to why Kieran left so abruptly, but I, the great omnipotent one, knew it was because we literally lied to him about seeing Ogerpon. Either way, we were off to the crystal pool at the mountain's peak to fetch a crystal cluster for Gramps to use on the mask. When we arrived, Carmine was stood at the edge of the pool admiring the crystalline structures below the water's surface. She told me I was gonna have to jump in to get the cluster, which honestly sounded kinda fun, but that would never have been programmed into the game, so instead a wild Milotic sprang out of the water, initiating a battle that we easily won. Kinda wish I would have just caught it instead of killing it, but Carmine's Morpeko basically killed it in one shot, so it isn't even my fault, I swear. Whatever the case, the beautiful serpent dropped the cluster we were looking for, and into my pocket it went just before Miss Briar randomly appeared. At the top of the mountain? I'm not sure, but this seems a little bit suspicious, don't you think? I'm sure she isn't evil though, right? Right? Regardless, we headed back to Gramps so he could fix up the mask, but of course not, because stupid Kieran decided he was gonna snatch it while we were away, which Carmine decided to blame on me? And to think I was just starting to warm up to you, Carmine. Kieran had gone off to Loyalty Plaza with the mask, and we found him stood in front of the memorial to the Loyal Three. And of course, he insisted on having a battle with me, and if I won, he'd hand over the mask. Well, we did win. He did put up quite the fight, but Freddy here really carries his weight, so the mask was ours once again. But as former US President Abraham Lincoln always said, this is why we can't have nice things. He was referring to this moment in all those times that he definitely said that. Because following our retrieval of the mask, the memorial in front of us began to glow a blinding purple before it exploded, sending shrapnel everywhere and also releasing some unexpected guests. The once dead Loyal Three burst out of the ground in all their somewhat intimidating glory, uttering their signature catchphrases of Discount Tony the Tiger, a happy stutter, and literally just Mr. Mackey. They ran off toward Kitakami Hall, presumably to get back the 3 masks that they had once stolen from Ogre Pond, and it was up to us to stop them. So we ran toward the festival grounds, grabbing a poltergeist for our party along the way. Why we had waited this long to get one, who knows, but we finally had one now. And now all we needed was the item to evolve it, which I definitely found on my own and definitely didn't Google for convenience sake. And with that, I had achieved what I had kinda sought out to do from the start of this adventure, which was filling my team with new Pokemon that I actually wanted to try out. After a bit of random evolving of various dudes in the box, we made our way to Kitakami Hall, where they informed us that the Loyal Three had in fact swung by to get the masks, and how they had in fact just given them to the trio without hesitation. I don't really understand how there was no part of you guys that thought, this seems real sus that they are just kind of alive again. Maybe I shouldn't just give these guys those masks. They might be up to no good, but hey, maybe that's just me. The 3 had supposedly made their way to the dreaded den to finish off Ogre Pond, but I wasn't about to let that happen. We made our way up there to find them quite literally bullying Ogre Pond, which was not gonna slide with your boy. We ran up to tell them to stop, which they did, but also turned their attention to me. Monkey Dory decided he was the one that was going to show me who's boss, which he kinda did, not gonna lie. I had no idea what the typing was on these guys, so I just kinda threw whatever I had at him, Freddy being the real MVP of the fight. We took out the counselor monkey, and the trio ran off with their 3 stolen masks to unmarked locations. We obviously had to find them, but where were they? And how are we gonna find that out? Well, Game Freak knew exactly what players would want. Exactly what they've all been begging for. A proximity objective, where all you do is talk to people. Riveting stuff, I know. They did make it so Ogre Pond follows you around during this segment though, which is honestly kind of a nice little touch. Lets me take cute pictures like this. It was at this point that we had been streaming for 10.5 hours straight. I was at a fork in the road and I didn't know which way to go. I couldn't decide whether to call it for the night and just resume our adventure the next day, or to keep it going with the possibility of beating it looming over our heads. So I did what any good streamer would do and turned the choice to my chat. And what did they want to do? Flip a coin, of course. Any chance they could get to gamble their channel points away, they were most definitely going to take. We determined heads as the flip to end the stream and tails for us to resume, and it all came down to this. So, here you go. Tails, we keep going. Oh my god! There it is. Fate had chosen. We must press on. Now that we had markers on our map of where the trio was located, we made our way to the big lake in the southwest corner where we found Monkey Dory stood with his back to us, and he was big. Like, I'm not sure what the hell the people at the hall fed this guy, but he is large. What he isn't, though, is a threat, because it was an easy sweep between Carmine's Morpeko and Freddy, obtaining the Wellspring Mask, and we were on to the northwestern corner to face Okie Dokie. He stood towering over us, but Freddy was able to take him down with only a few Earth powers, while Carmine's team got decimated by close combats from the Green Dog, giving us the Cornerstone Mask. There was only one left now, Pheasantipity. Probably my favorite of the three, and that was the case even before the fight against him. The battle only solidified my love for him. That's because, oh hey, a shiny Houndour. That makes 2 shinies today. Unexpected, but certainly far from underappreciated. Anyways, the reasons why I like Pheasantipity. Its design is nice and sleek. It doesn't look doofy like the other two. It could do with a better typing though. Like, I guess Poison Flying isn't awful. I just think it could be something a bit cooler. Why isn't Electric super effective? It isn't Poison Flying? Then what is it? No way, it's Poison Fairy? That's awesome. Prior to this, the only mon with that typing was Galarian Weezing, so I will for sure take this. Not sure why, but I love this type combo. I think I'm just a fan of combos where one is super effective against the other, like Steel Fairy, or Dark Fairy, or, you know, maybe I just like Fairy. Well, anyways, because I didn't know its typing, the battle was a bit more interesting than it otherwise would have been, but it wasn't long before the big bird was no more, and we had gotten the Hearthflame Mask, the final of the 3. Now that we had gotten all of the masks back, we headed back to Masui with Ogerpon at our side, where we found Kieran, who ushered Ogerpon to come with him into town, promising safety where safety for the ogre was forever unheard of. But after some slight hesitation, we all strolled into town to see the fruits of Kieran's labor and why he claimed Ogerpon would be safe. It turns out we had no reason to be worried, as Kieran had been telling everyone in town the real story of how the Loyal 3 were the bad guys and Ogerpon was the real victim, and everyone believed him, collectively apologizing to Ogerpon for all of the wrong that they had done. And that's when our little ogre's face lit up with so much joy, hopping up and down with the glee of a small child. I love this Pokemon. It was time to bring Ogerpon back to its den in the mountains. When we arrived at the den, both Kieran and Carmine were there to bid our new friend farewell. But Carmine noticed something at the last minute. That Ogerpon seemed to want to go with me, not to stay in that dark den all alone. What a wonderful idea, Carmine. I'm sure there will be no issues with that sentiment. I'm sorry, dude. Hey, hold up. Oh, God damn it. Yep, Kieran certainly had his 2 cents to add, suggesting that we battle to see who deserves to take Ogerpon. Carmine was not impressed, and neither was I, but we reluctantly obliged. It was a relatively easy sweep through his team, but what it really was a good showcase of our full team of 6, everyone contributing in ways both big and small. And that is what matters. Synergy. And also winning, baby! Let's go! You'll never beat me, Kieran! After Kieran's little pity party, it was time for the final test. Time for us to prove ourselves to Ogerpon. And I gotta say, this fight was super cool. I didn't know about the whole mask mechanic with Ogerpon, and the fact that the battle consists of 4 different phases, each with a different mask and, in tandem, a different type, is such a cool idea to me. I won't lie, it didn't really give us much for trouble, but I still stand by my thoughts on how cool it is thematically. Following the bout and us catching Ogerpon in a luxury ball, first I learned that Ogerpon is actually specifically a female Pokemon 100% of the time, and second, I learned that Kieran just never stops being a baby bitch. We headed back to the community center to rest, waking up the next morning only to have one of the nameless students tell us to meet Carmine at Loyalty Plaza, while also being a little too self-aware for my taste. We made our way there, and she insisted on one last battle with us, so she could see what it was like to battle Ogerpon. And we swept her. Turns out having the DLC Legendary on your team helps a whole lot with the whole winning thing. Shortly after, we received a call from Miss Breyer saying that we were to return to the community center, so we did just that. And from there, it was goodbye. Miss Breyer, Carmine, and Kieran were to return to Blueberry Academy a bit earlier than expected, but Carmine made sure to give us a proper goodbye, assuring that we'd meet again. In the next DLC, coming to a Switch near you whenever they decide to announce an actual release date. The screen faded to black, and then this happened. I need to become... Oh no. Uh-oh. I need to become a lot stronger. Stronger and stronger and stronger. Yes. Just you wait, Ezekiel. You're fucking dead meat, bitch. And that was about it. We played for about 5 hours the following day, but that mostly just consisted of us filling out the rest of Kitakami's decks, catching the Loyal 3, evolving plenty of trade-based evos, and also getting a third shiny. I have no idea how I got 3 in the course of the 18 hours I played for, but I'm not one to say no to a shiny. We finished the decks as well as completely filled out a living dex for the region, received our diploma for our dex completion, and called it a day. All in all, I had a wonderful time with the first part of the DLC, and I'm super excited for what the second part will have to offer when it comes out eventually. In the meantime, make sure you leave a like on this video, comment, and subscribe to get notified about future uploads, and go check out the Twitch if you're into that sort of thing. Live times are on screen right now, so if you get a chance, swing in and say hi. Or say something zany like, "Hey, Tony sent me. Heard you got a little bit of debt to pay off. I'm here to collect it however I need. I'm the debt collector." You'll stick out like a sore thumb that way. Just an idea. You don't have to follow my advice. That's about it for me today. But until next time, as always, have a good one, stay safe, and I'll see you around.